Hi, and welcome back to Living My Fest Life, a podcast about festivals and fairs, events, and experiences, everything from the nationally known to the local and obscure. And before I get to today's episode, I want to make a quick announcement. If you haven't been following us on Instagram yet, you should. We just give away $50 worth of road trip giveaway gift cards so that you can take a road trip and buy tickets to festivals, snacks, gas, whatever you want. So we'll be doing giveaways periodically. Also, anybody who writes into the show, I would love to send you some swag. So please write into the show and tell me about your festival. I'll be doing a bonus mini-isode next week. All right, let's get to this week's episode. I meet again with John and Joe from Ridge Radio, my favorite guys to talk about weird and obscure events with, but this time we pick something that's very international, very known to a lot of people around the world, but was somewhat unknown to me, so I'm glad that we covered this topic. Please enjoy our episode about Guy Fawkes Day. I'm living my best life. I'm here with John and Joe, and Joe, you gave me a great idea for a festival to talk about, which is, it's more a holiday / event experience / I guess a festival / an overtaking. So we're talking about Guy Fawkes Day, also known as Bonfire Night, right. Also known as Guy Fawkes Night, yeah. Also known as, there's one more.
Lewis Bonfire?
Lewis Festival? Is that what it was?
Okay.
I guess in the city of Lewis.
The main city.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been, or you
were in London about 10 years ago when this was going on. And so I kind of I had no idea before then what it was.
Holy shit, because
why these people were wearing, I'd never seen the masks before. And they were all wearing the Guy Fawkes mask. Yeah. And
is this pre like Occupy Wall Street Anonymous probably?
Yeah.
So you were just
cool
there
to be an anarchist,
right,
you know?
Exactly.
You were just there in a pub. You were having a good time, enjoying some fish and chips. You walk outside and you're like
burning crosses and people dressed in these weird masks. They look like clowns. I didn't know exactly what to expect. But then the locals clued me in that it's
because they saw the panic in your eyes and they were probably
I'm like what's going on? Really confused. And Guy Fawkes was a guy in 1605 that planned to blow up Parliament.
Yeah, so I guess Protestants and Catholics fighting like Tom and Jerry throughout history, and this Catholic guy was like, "Hey, if I blow up the king, then we can take over Catholicism and the Pope can take over England."
I really love Catholicism.
Yeah.
And I want a lot of it in England.
Yeah.
I really love it. It's so insane.
So Guy Fawkes is the guy's name, right?
Right.
He places fireworks, or was it bombs?
I think it was a bunch of gunpowder, like a bunch of barrels of it underneath Parliament. And I mean, I guess I don't know how they got it under there, but it was all in there ready to go. And I guess he and some conspirators all, got in on this. The conspirators all planned it, and then
they're like, "You're gonna do it."
Then they got together and they're like, "We need somebody to light this thing."
Because he's probably gonna die, right?
Guido was his original name.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, Guido, I got this guy Guido, and he might."
I know a guy.
I know a guy, and he'll pull the trigger. I mean, he'll light the thing. Yeah, he'll blow up, but it's Guido. We don't care. And so they get Guido, and I guess then he goes by the name Guy Fawkes, and I don't know what how that all occurred, but anyway, he gets caught because one of the conspirators tips off a buddy of theirs that's
double agent
in Parliament, like, "Hey, you might not want to come to Parliament tomorrow night at 8 p.m. because something's going to happen."
Yeah, and that's the House of the Lords, right? House of Lords, Parliament, same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so then the buddy kind of takes that note, gives it to the king. Then they catch Guy Fawkes in the act of about to lighting this whole thing up.
So they're like, you've been caught red-handed, and this is November 5th. So that's why they celebrate it every year on November 5th. Right. So they celebrate the fact that King James I has survived the attempt on his life. And how do they celebrate?
Bonfires.
Bonfires, by ironically being like, oh, you couldn't light the fire. We're gonna light all the fucking fires, right? Am I getting this right?
It's a crazy amount of fire. It's it's a bunch of fires. They light fires. They have fireworks. It's a weird holiday. It's like a mashup between like Halloween, 4th of July, and Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras, maybe.
Gras.
They got all these effigies.
We didn't start the fire.
Yeah. They have they burn the Pope in effigy.
That's what I think is weird.
Yeah.
They burn an effigy of a person that is still alive today, which, like, freedom of speech aside, like, that's still very creepy to be like, hey, I know that you weren't born here. We still want to take you out. Or we're celebrating the fact that you're not in charge. Is that weird to anybody else that they would?
Well, they burn Guy Fawkes in effigy too, which threw me off because I thought he was, like, just in my limited knowledge before I researched this, I thought he was the hero. I thought he was
when they say Guy Fawkes Day, you think he would be the hero.
He's the hero. But it turns out they all hate him and they burn him again and again, over and over, throwing the Pope. Sometimes they throw in Donald Trump or maybe the Prime Minister.
Can you imagine that being like your... You thought you were going to get all the glory from lighting this goddamn fire, and instead, 400 years later, people are lighting you on fire.
At least he's remembered, though. I mean, it's got a day after 400 years later.
So how I remembered it is I was really obsessed with this MTV show called Daria when I was growing up. In one episode, they had all the holidays. They had fake people representing holidays come, and they had St. Patrick's Day, and he came and he was really drunk, and Halloween was this, like, emo girl who played in a band, and they had this guy, and his name was Guy Fawkes Day. And he was dressed like a member of Green Day. And I just remember being like, oh, so like Guy Fawkes was just this punk rock guy in the 1970s, and they celebrate him for his music or something. I had no idea it went back this far. I was completely unaware that it was an actual holiday. I had no idea. So I've heard the term before. They also call it Gunpowder Treason Day.
Not so catchy.
Yeah. Or Fireworks Day, yeah. But they now celebrate, so this is like an annual public day of Thanksgiving. So you know how we have our Thanksgiving every November, and we have kind of a seedy history with ours too, right?
True.
Yeah, so this is like their way of giving thanks. Okay, so you were there, and you walk out of the bar, and you see people burning anti-Catholic sentiment, popery, you seeing effigies, you're seeing a parade. And was this in Lewis or Guildford?
I was in London,
okay.
So it's like not as official as it was in Lewis or some of these other places. But
so Lewis is the place you probably want to party down, right?
I think so. They got like 6 different crews of these parades, and they all come to Lewis, and they all burn tar barrels and race. It's
they race the barrels.
Yeah, they kind of pull them along and. They race. There's lots of fire. There's lots of fireworks. Lots of explosions. I think I want to go to Lewis sometime and check out the real scene because it seems crazy.
So when you went and you saw all this, did you try and participate in any way?
No, I didn't tell him I was Catholic. That's the one thing you don't do.
Okay.
And I kind of just, it's kind of weird to have a festival that's anti another religion. It's just like burn like the head of some other religion in effigy. I don't think that's just not a good basis for a holiday in my book. But.
Well, it says in the 1850s, changing attitudes resulted in the toning down of much of the day's anti-Catholic rhetoric, and it became more of like a thank goodness
generic celebration of fire.
I don't know if that would be generic.
I mean,
Yeah.
It turns out that, all these guys are mostly just like another great MTV show. They're all just Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
Fire, fire, burn, fire, fire. That's all they're doing.
Fire's awesome.
So settlers exported Guy Fawkes Night to overseas colonies, including some in North America where it is known as Pope Day. Have you ever heard of Pope Day in North America?
Never have heard of Pope Day.
Okay, Wikipedia, I'm calling your bullshit on this one. We don't celebrate Pope Day over here.
It's pretty lame.
Okay.
So, do we know, I didn't really look into this, is this a replacement for Halloween in Great Britain? Or do they also have Halloween?
I think that they do celebrate Halloween. I know that they look to America for their Halloween celebrations. Like I remember when I was in England, they were like, "Oh, I want to come over to America in October for Halloween." Like they think it would be better over here from the people that I talked to.
What about this? Do they celebrate the 4th of July?
I wouldn't assume.
I would say no on that.
No?
Actually,
Sure.
I've seen some photos online of Europeans celebrating, doing fake American parties, and what they would do is wear the American flag, get red Solo cups, and take lots of photos. So I know
they have
that's a
big
thing.
redneck party.
Yeah, they have like redneck parties over there because they're like probably like that's how they party over here. Mm-hmm. So, what do you know about the masks that they wear? Are they supposed to be of Guy Fawkes?
Yeah, I think it's a likeness of Guy Fawkes, and it's kind of taken on a whole nother meaning with all kind of anti-establishment, I don't know, just
Damn the man.
anti-society sentiment, basically, and the man, fight the man.
So, like, the closest thing, I don't know. I'm just looking at the photos and they look like The Purge. You know what I mean? Have you seen that show? That movie?
There's a lot of similar things in pop culture, like Judgment Night, Purge Night. I remember the movie The Crow. They had a similar thing. It was just like bonfires everywhere, crime everywhere. So it's a big thing in pop culture.
Ironically, I went to see the Joker last night at the theater, and in it, you got a bunch of people wearing clown masks, and it's anarchy and a bunch of fires. And I thought, well, I had to bring that up today because it's a repetitive theme that you see over and over.
Yeah.
Once you start to key in on Guy Fawkes Night.
Yeah, the photos are actually terrifying.
And a very similar mask. It's that creepy permanent smile mask, which why is that so scary? Like it's like Chucky and It and all this stuff. Like the permanent smile.
Yeah, we don't like happy people. So gathering wood for bonfires increasingly became something that the working class children would do, and then they would like go out and solicit like combustible materials like money to aid in the bonfires, and then they would sing a song. So this is a song from 1742. It's called like most Guy Fawkes ditties. Don't you remember the 5th of November? 'Twas gunpowder treason day. I let off my gun. I made them all run and stole all their bonfire away. On the 5th of November, since I can remember, was Guy Fawkes. Poke him in the eye, shove him up the chimney pot, and let him die. A stick of a stake, a King George sake. If you don't give me one, I'll take two. The better for me and the worse for you. Rickety rack, your hedges shall go. Thoughts?
It's it's not very pleasant.
That's a hit. That is a hit. I love that.
Seriously, because
it's catchy.
But like children would see this. You know, like when you used to sing Ring Around the Rosie and you didn't know it was about the bubonic plague. You know what I mean? Like, do they actually know that they're singing about murdering somebody?
Yeah, we got to talk about how prevalent violence was in 1605. So, I think it was just, they caught this guy, which there was another tidbit I read that when they caught Guy Fawkes in the hall underneath the House of Lords or whatever, apparently he said his name was John Johnson. He's like, oh, I'm just John Johnson. That's my name down here. I'm not doing anything. Just chilling out. But anyway, when they caught him, he was put to death by hanging, drawing, and quartering, which was like the standard execution method.
Okay.
And so they basically drag him behind a horse to a hanging gallows. And then the intent is you hang them until they're almost dead, not quite dead. And then you torture him by removing his bowels, genitalia.
I think you'd be dead by then, right? If you remove your bowels?
The whole point is they draw it out. And then they ultimately quarter him and then send all the pieces to like the corners of the British Empire or something like that.
Which, like, how shitty would that be to be like, I just got the upper right-hand corner and now I got to go out for 4 days?
We just got the right leg. I mean, that's really not my favorite.
Yeah. That's very morbid.
Yeah.
But Guy Fawkes got off easy because he, like, when he was almost hanged, apparently he fell and broke his neck. So he didn't get like the full torture. Like
Tricks on you.
I mean, that's a great day for him. I mean, he only just broke his neck after being hung for a couple hours.
Now, they still did that to his dead body. They still quartered it and did all this stuff, but he obviously didn't.
Did he even get a trial?
I don't think so. I think they just, it was an open shut. He's standing there with like a big torch next to a big fuse.
It wasn't me.
I'm John Johnson.
Yeah.
Innocent until proven guilty.
They call that the Shaggy method of getting away with stuff. Okay, so they do that to him. Now, survey found that in 1981, about 23% of children, school-age children in Sheffield, made guys. So they made little dolls to burn in school. And this is 1981. They're still doing this.
Yeah, they carry, almost like trick-or-treating, they carry this guy doll, this effigy, around. They kind of beat it up and screw around with it and, pose it and stuff. And then...
Like a Stretch Armstrong.
Yeah. Which would be kind of fun.
That you burn.
Yeah, and then you burn it.
Which is what most guys did with Stretch Armstrongs.
Like, stick a firecracker up his ass, all that good stuff.
What a fun holiday for little boys.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
I would have loved that.
Yeah.
I mean, fire was pretty important in my life as a 13-year-old.
Well, it's a good way to learn how to make a bonfire, I guess, from an early age.
Yeah, and I mean, women were not drawn and quartered because that would be too gruesome. So they would burn them at the stake. That's civilized.
Yeah.
Which begs the question: which would you prefer?
Burning
at the stake or hung? Beheaded.
Favorite way? What would you? What are some of the worst ways?
I mean, I feel like a guillotine. I would love a guillotine.
Everybody would love a guillotine.
Yes.
Did you know they used to tip their guillotine people beforehand?
The people being executed?
The people being executed would tip the guillotine and say, can you just get this done in one and not have to raise it again and
sharpen that blade for me.
Sharpen that blade so it's done in one,
What kind of tip is this? Are we
I don't know.
15, 18%?
Probably I don't know. I would.
What's the standard tip for that?
Okay, speaking of money, so they used to go out and beg for a penny for guy. I don't know what that means. Did you read up on that? The kids would go begging for pennies for guy?
I think they would make little dolls and try to sell them. I think they'd sell them in the street. Little kids would sell them, hand them out,
and then
so that people could toss them on the fire.
Buy more fireworks to shoot off.
Right.
So
So many men chase each other through the streets with lit tar barrels. And since 1679, Lewis has been the setting for some of England's most extravagant celebrations, the Lewis bonfire. Now, Lewis isn't where this happened, though, right?
No, it happened. It was in London.
Yeah, so I wonder why they adopted it.
Not a lot going on in Lewis.
Yeah, they're like, we don't have a soccer team, so
This is ours.
Okay.
They had some fires going anyway. We're like, okay, this is our thing now.
So generally modern November 5th celebrations now are run by local charities and other organizations. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I saw one thing where one of the towns where they celebrate this, it was the leadership apparently felt it was a little dangerous. So instead of a bonfire, they did a projection of a fire onto the side of a building.
Okay.
So they basically turned on Netflix, like a log campfire, and sat around and sipped hot cocoa and watched it. I'm like, are you kidding me? A projection of a bonfire?
They just made it an adorable holiday. Yeah.
They all snuggled up. They had their teacups with two hands on them and just sat there and watched the fire.
That's how I feel about Halloween now. Like, Halloween when I went out used to be dangerous. First of all, you went by yourself and you never had a coat.
No.
If you had a coat, you were a bitch. You know what I mean? And you had to work for that candy. Your parents made you go knock on the door. They weren't going to go up there with you.
I agree with that. We used to have to knock on the door. Now everyone is throwing candy from the sidewalk as you walk by with a bag held open. You had to work for it back in the day.
Now they have trunk or treat where everyone just brings their car and lifts the trunk. You just grab it out of each trunk.
Like a trick or treat in a parking lot.
Walk around the neighborhood anymore.
Yeah, because it's too cold.
Yeah, it's too cold. It's too
You know what would be good for that? Fucking bonfires in the street.
Yes.
Guy Fawkes.
We need more of that. We need more Guy Fawkes.
Okay.
We gotta blow up Halloween. That's what we need to do.
You heard it here, folks. Okay, so historians have often suggested that Guy Fawkes Day served as a Protestant replacement for the ancient Celtic festival or pagan events the church absorbed and transformed into the All Hallows Eve and All Souls Day. So Do you think that's kind of their Halloween version, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like the fall kind of, celebrate the devil festival. Everyone's got it.
So what would you rather do? Our Halloween with trick-or-treating and slutty outfits and bobbing for apples? Where did that tradition even come from? Or bonfires, weird protesting and
burning Donald Trump's effigy. I don't know.
Tempting, but I think I'd have to go with the United States and Halloween because I think I'd like to experience that again and do it some more. Check out the Lewis thing, but definitely the Halloween.
I mean, our costumes are more versatile, so you can show off your personality, and that's always fun. But how fun would it be to be anonymous with 600 other people marching down the street? That just sounds ludicrous.
True. Have you guys ever seen V for Vendetta by chance?
I have not. You have. It looks like, yeah.
You have seen it. Yeah, I actually watched it last night. Research. Okay. I'm all about research.
Wait, is that about this?
The character is based loosely on Guy Fawkes. So it's more like a futuristic dystopian Great Britain, and this guy basically attempts to take down the rulers, but he's basing the character on Guy Fawkes. And they talk about a lot early in the movie that, it's all 5th of November and all that stuff, and they use the mask. But it's a good movie, actually. I like it.
And that, is one of my favorite movie genres, which is dystopian or apocalyptic future. Which, I don't know why that is, but
because it's cool.
It's cool, yeah. And so I was wondering what some of your favorite kind of dystopian apocalyptic movies are. One of mine was Omega Man with Charlton Heston. It's an old one, but it's really good. He's the last guy on Earth, and the whole beginning scene, it's all quiet, and he's driving his race car through the downtown area, and then he can do whatever he wants. He goes into a movie theater, he watches a movie by himself. He knows every word because that's the only movie he has to watch.
Sounds like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, it's cool. And then but then there's always zombies, right? So he has to kill a bunch of zombies, and so anyway, it unfolds from there. But you got to check it out. It's a good, and there's lots of them like that.
I enjoy Planet of the Apes, the original. Yeah. I don't know this James Franco bullshit that everybody's trying to pitch me. I'm talking original, talking about because I think it's interesting to sympathize. Of course, we all sympathize with the animals, and then for us to all of a sudden be on the other side of that, I mean, that really makes you think.
Right. I mean, it's not my genre. I'm not a big dystopian thriller, but I would say my favorite. Probably When Harry Met Sally. I think that one. It's strong. Yes. It's a strong one.
Nora Ephron really nailed it. I'm going to say all the zombies. 28 Days Later, I loved. Yeah. I loved, I'm trying to think of other ones where it's just.
World War Z, is that another zombie one? Yeah. That I'm thinking of.
I like the one with Will Smith, and he was the last guy, and just him and his German Shepherd, and the whole time you're like, something's going to happen to that fucking dog.
It's basically a remake of Omega Man. Okay. That movie with Will Smith.
Okay.
I Am Legend.
Right?
I Am Legend. Yeah. So good. Okay, so here's a quote on Wikipedia. November 5th has also been overtaken by a popular festival that barely existed when I was growing up, and that is Halloween. Britain is not the Protestant nation it is now. It was when I was young, and now it is a multi-faith society, and the Americanized Halloween is sweeping all before it, a vivid reminder of how powerful American culture and American consumerism can be, and can be transported over to the Atlantic. So we were right. It's kind of shifting in that direction. I'm sure a lot of people who have Catholic faith are probably very excited about that, because maybe they don't feel as attacked on that side.
It seems rough. I mean, it seems rough on the Catholics, I gotta say.
Okay. So another fireworks celebration is the Hindu Diwali. That's coming up. Have you guys celebrated that or heard of that?
I've heard of it. Yeah, we've had a few work celebrations of Diwali. Okay. It's interesting.
So we all saw the Office episode on Diwali, so maybe I'll need to cover that one next to get you guys into that. So what do you think the biggest obstacle would be to going over as an American and trying to celebrate Guy Fawkes Day?
I think just knowing how to participate, maybe. I mean, other than just maybe watching all the parades and things, that'd be interesting enough. But I think it'd be really cool to put the mask on, get involved, be involved in one of these crews, burn some things.
Would you burn an effigy?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it would be fun.
Of the Pope.
I'd like to make my own effigy and then burn it. Maybe not of the Pope, but somebody that I didn't like.
You just like label it like mean people and burn that.
Favorite Catholic.
What about you? What do you think would be the best part?
I think the best. I love the fire thing. We don't do enough of that here in the U.S.
Do we do any of it besides 4th of July?
4th of July with the fireworks. But I love a bonfire. I love all of that stuff. I feel like I did see some videos marching through the streets with burning crosses. I feel like
that was a little. It reminded me of look like KKK, and that was very, very scary.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. So that might be an adjustment. You got to fit in. But so I do it. But you got to do what you got to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it looks amazing. I would love to go check it out.
So it's relevant even today because Guy Fawkes masks are still being worn in like protests over in Hong Kong and they're wearing all kinds of masks, but a lot of those are seen because it's still just this anti-establishment sentiment that it's kind of interesting that after 420 years it's still relevant.
It's like the symbolism of protest. The little tiny goatee, the little mustache. We wore them on Occupy Wall Street. That was very prevalent. Anything that seems like anti-government, anti-society, rebelling seems to be kind of like the face of that.
Well, and I think you have to look at like the founding fathers of the United States and kind of how were they influenced by some of this and rising up and burning
throwing tea into the
throwing tea being a rebel and burning effigies of the king and things like that, which I know were done.
I mean, this is their history, but it kind of seems like the beginning of ours as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's prevalent throughout history. Yeah. It's just overthrow government or whatever, the church or whatever, so you can, be free. And I think that's kind of what the spirit of all of that is about.
Here's what I think America should do. I think we should have our own Fawkes Day, but I think it should be Michael J. Fawkes Day, okay? Hear me out. Just a ton of Michael J. Fawkes faces running through the street, and then, a car comes through at 88 miles per hour, and then
Teen Wolf.
With fire, of course, yeah.
And
then
Teen Wolf is driving.
Yeah, Teen Wolf is driving. They dunk a basketball, and lightning hits a clock tower, and then we all party.
Yeah,
I think that
great. That is a great festival.
Thank you. I made it up. So coming soon to you.
Yeah, I mean, my other question was, it's an interesting idea, right? You fill up the basement of something with gunpowder and then blow it up. Has this ever happened in another time in history? I was trying to look or think. I wasn't thinking about it too much.
Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Yosemite Sam, is carrying his bucket of TNT, but
I'm sure it's happened so many times before that.
But so in the movie V for Vendetta, he blows up a building on November 5th to open the movie, and then 1 year later, he attempts to do it again. But it looks awesome. So I'm kind of thinking we need more buildings exploding,
In movies.
Yeah, in movies.
Imploding. We do a lot of implosions here.
Oh, yeah, you're right. The detonated, knocking down a building. Maybe we should do that every year, on Guy Fawkes Day. It's pretty fun to watch.
It's just, for me, the amount of gunpowder that would have to fill a basement, especially that big. I've been over there. That's a big building, right?
Right, huge.
So, do you think they took it over and, do they Andy Dufresne it and let it in a pocket at a time, walking through the yard? Or do you think they had to have people on the inside, taking barrels?
I think that was the move. It was, progressing over months, I think, to sneak it in and stow it. And then Guy Fawkes, I think, was supposed to light it and then sneak out of the country somehow, which I don't know the mechanics. I don't know the mechanics of how long this fuse was or what he was thinking was going to happen.
Do you think they just had a timed run and everybody practiced how fast they were?
I want to know how they chose him. They had a whole bunch of conspirators. What was the meeting like where they picked the guy who was going to light the fuse.
That's when you have to use your persuasion skill. You'd be like, oh my God, you're so good at lighting stuff. You should do it. Yeah. You light better than everybody else. And you just got to really inflate their ego.
Fast, you know? You can run so fast away from fire.
Also, that mustache, you can twiddle it while you're leaving.
It doesn't look evil at all.
Yeah.
No one would suspect you.
Because it looks like a guy who would be wearing a cape. If you put that face with any other outfit, it has to have a cape on it, right?
Yeah, you gotta have a cape. I mean, everyone wore a cape back then, right?
Was it? I don't know.
Just Guy Fawkes.
Yeah.
He was the only cape guy?
You wonder why he got caught. He had the big long mustache, the cape, he had a lighter in his hand.
He had a barrel full of gunpowder underneath his arm, and he was just whistling.
Right.
He was just standing in the corner whistling. How do you not get caught? Okay, so fireworks displays, though. Okay, pros and cons. Let's talk about that, because they do light off fireworks here.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the deal with fireworks? People take videos of them on Instagram and post them like they're going to rewatch them later.
I gotta say, I'm usually bored with fireworks within 15 seconds of it starting, you know? I see the first couple, I'm like, ooh, and then I'm done.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen them, and I've seen them before. And
give me something I haven't seen.
Yeah, so I really don't go to very many shows anymore.
For me, it has to be synced up with music, timed correctly. The best fireworks I did see were in London. I was there for New Year's Eve one year, and we were outside the London Eye next to Big Ben, so the clock was going off. They shot them off next to the Eye. It was so fucking cool, because when they do a New Year's Eve fireworks show, they also show you New York, where fireworks are going off. They show you Hong Kong, where fireworks are going off. They show you the celebrations all around the world at that time. So it has to be like this is a once in a lifetime event. Like I can't get over, people sitting there holding off the bottle rockets and pointing it at their friends and trying to blow their, faces off with them.
Yeah, right. I think amateur fireworks, that's a whole different animal. I mean, I'm sure they would do a lot of that on Guy Fawkes Day, but not smart.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Okay. We concur. Yeah. So anything you guys else want to hit on with Guy Fawkes Day? I know you guys did a lot of research, and pre-apologizing to anybody in England who is listening right now when we may have gotten something wrong. You can definitely hit me up with corrections, but I feel like
I'm pretty sure we're experts.
Yeah.
And all I've got to say is I got no more Fawkes to give.
What about you? Anything else?
No, I don't know. I have nothing else after that.
Yeah, I wrote that.
Okay, nailed it. All right, so I hope you learned a little bit more about a festival or a celebration that you may not have known before. You may have heard the name, but you might not have known how they celebrated. Go ahead and go to Google and click in Guy Fawkes Day. That's FAWKS or ES?
ES.
ES.
Yep.
And look at the images. And you might be surprised at how they celebrate this in 2019. I mean, it's still, for me, it's a little, historically kind of unconventional to be doing in modern days, but I still think it's cool. And with anything, traditions do change, but it's always fun to be like, back in my day, we did it like this. So
yeah, and I think, make that backyard campfire just a little bit bigger,
Yeah, November.
Bonfire,
yeah, so November 5th, everybody make a bonfire. How about that?
We could do that.
Are you going to do it?
I'm going to do it.
Okay, right here at Ridge Radio, we're having
fireworks in.
That seems scary.
I could do that.
There's always a kid at the bonfires jumping over it. There's always a kid planting fireworks, and there's always some mischief to be had. So just be safe, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. Did I just mom it up?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I just ruin it with my mom
Yeah,
logic?
be safe out there, burning stuff.
Go to Burning Man. All right.
I'm living my best life.
Guy Fawkes Day is celebrated on November 5th. You can find more information on Google. There is no festival website, but I'm sure local towns will put on their own events, and you can find various things to do throughout the communities. I really want to go to this. I've never seen anything like this. Just hitting Google Images, I mean, at first it was terrifying, but then again, it has a long history, and I understand why they would want to celebrate that, just because of the, a lot of people survived not getting killed, so that's probably a good thing to a lot of them. If you have a festival idea, please send it to festlifepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Instagram. I'd love to send you some swag. Thank you to Phil from Me Compadre for doing the editing for the show. And we'll see you next time. Go fest yourself.